Also, you see a very simple approach, and what was also mentioned this morning, to have a standard approach for benchmarking within the country is quite good to put such activities on a rather high level. Therefore, here I put at first it's important to know about the benchmarking strategy, whether to do it more within a country, whether to do it first among GCC countries, or directly to start on an international level. Then, after knowing about the strategy, it is important to define the tools to be applied. Because if you would set up a couple of databases which are not connected to each other, the value is not that high. Therefore, we always recommend that a certain standard for indicators should be applied in various businesses within a country or a region. And there are tools available, and I think the World Lead consultants are very much aware of what's available to help the businesses to learn from others and to implement the medicine. And finally, it is about the change management, because only to know what others are doing better is one end. The other hand is to enhance the human capital to do things different after such projects. So now a quick introduction to one tool I would like to present, which is the Benchmark Index. It is the largest benchmarking database for small and mid-sized enterprises you could find worldwide, which a huge capacity of more than 100,000 data of businesses. And we developed this jointly together with our partners in the UK, and the overall activity was also initiated by the Department of Trade and Industry in the UK. And this approach allows businesses to compare their performances on a diagnostic basis in the area of financial data, process data, innovation, learning and growth data, and customer data. And this, you know, is a standard approach which was developed by two quite famous guys in the United States called Kaplan and Norton when they developed the balanced scorecard in the 70s of the last century, and finally they got the Nobel Prize for that. So therefore we used this existing approach and this standard of structuring indicators for a benchmarking tool and implemented this afterwards, and this database is active since the mid of the 90s. And after 1999 and 2000, it even became a global database. And here you see the current countries which are using this database. Unfortunately, the GCC countries are still, let's say, a wide area, but because benchmarking centers were not set up that much in the past, we think that probably now there is also the right time to bring this capacity and the overall content of data to the Middle East and GCC. As I said, more than 100,000 companies are stored in this database, and the information is available. Which sectors are having best practices installed, others can learn from. And here you see just one quick result of the financial perspective. In the documentation you will receive tomorrow on CD, the whole set of data is in that, but it would have covered too much time if I would have gone too much in detail on that. But here you see it gives a very easy result for a business. For instance, about productivity, what is the profit before tax per employee? Is the company performing well or not? What is about the value added per employee? Is the company performing well or not compared to similar companies worldwide? So by this approach, you could even compare suppliers of the oil industry with companies in, for instance, Australia, the UK, and other companies which are partly driven by, let's say, fuel resources. Okay, what's the benefit of doing benchmarking? A study was done in the 90s by the Frankfurt University, which is quite famous in the UK of doing such studies, and they found out that by using benchmarking, 38 million increase in profit could be derived by the businesses who did that in the UK. You know, here I'm talking about small and mid-sized businesses. It's a huge result to increase the overall profit by 40 million for them. Also, it increased by 56% in the area of productivity. To learn what others are doing better, to find the medicine at the end, helps a lot in increasing productivity. As you will hear later, there are also other tools like Six Sigma, like quality management, business excellence, which is focusing on productivity. But from my personal perspective, benchmarking is really one of the top tools to achieve this. Also, what is important as a service provider, that 75% of the users of the industries would recommend this to others. Yes, it's perfect, others should do it as well. And more than 75% reported that it helped them to change and to do things better. So I think, therefore, this is a good result in the application of it, not just from the provider side, but also from the customer side. What I explained to you now was the diagnostic part. Now I will come to the medicine, which is about best practice processes. And here you see only one example, which was also quite successfully done in Japan by Ono Toyota himself, when he introduced the just-in-time management approach, which was further developed to Kanban system, which is a shop floor control mechanism. So what he did is, he said, I would like to reduce the stock in my company, because stock is building capital, but I would like to have more free capital for investments. And the question was, which kind of business is having the lowest stock? And if you just think for 5 minutes, you would say, probably supermarkets. Because of goods which you can just store for less than 24 or 12 hours, you need to have a very sophisticated stock turnover system. So he copied or benchmarked the practices of huge supermarket chains and transferred this knowledge to Toyota to have a technology or management system like just-in-time development. And here you see a small supermarket shelf beside a Toyota Corolla. So he transferred the best practice from one sector to another, and we all know that Toyota is, at the moment, the largest automotive OEM in the world. It's a burden for Germany that this finally gave to Toyota, but Volkswagen is doing very well in catching up, and maybe next year Volkswagen will be again the number one in the world. Nevertheless, here by this you can see how benchmarking and process benchmarking helped a lot in implementing best practices coming from other businesses, and which helped Toyota to become one of the best companies in the world in terms of quality. And here, this is quite easy. You see, this is a process, it's an R&D process of an automotive industry. This is Mercedes-Benz. I can tell this to you because we published this. And this is a snapshot of an R&D process of the semiconductor industry. And this was to enhance the quality of Mercedes-Benz and of specific spare parts, like water pumps, oil pumps, and camshafts. And they learned a lot from a different sector which they could use for their own activities to enhance their quality of the R&D of Mercedes. I will not go more in detail in that, but because the 5-minute bell just rang, I will jump to the last topic, which is the development of intellectual capital, by giving you a specific example of the Middle East and of Dubai. So what is intellectual capital about? This is a business in the 70s, and this business were very strong in R&D. But this business was only consisting of intangible assets, human capital. There were no fixed assets, no tangibles available. And you know, Kuwaitis are very strong in investing in companies abroad. The Kuwait Foundation is worldwide known for doing very wise investments. But it is difficult to invest in companies which only consists of intangible assets. So if I would ask, no one of Kuwait Foundation is here today, but if I would ask Kuwaiti people to invest maybe $1 billion in this business, most of you would say this guy is crazy asking me for money, but he just showed me a picture. But this company only had intangible assets. And as you can see, this was Microsoft in 1978, and here you see little multi-billionaire Bill Gates. Because no one was able to assess the value of Microsoft at that time. The balance sheet was zero. He was working in a garage with his friends. And by this you can see how important it is to assess the value of the intangible assets of an organization. It's the same you find here in the Middle East, in the universities, or in the more service-driven industries. How to assess the assets of Kuwait universities? For sure not by assessing the value of the buildings, but by knowing about the capacities of the professors and of the researchers and of the students. And for this, we developed an approach how to assess it. It's called intellectual capital statement, which can be benchmarked on an international and national basis to find out how strong is the leadership ability of an organization, how strong is the motivation of the people, what about the overall corporate culture. And I'm very happy when I heard that one of the next speakers will talk about corporate social responsibility, because it's also an intangible asset. And we developed the corporate social responsibility for economic zones world business, a very well-known business in Dubai, active in logistics. Hopefully that this corporate social responsibility will become a national corporate social responsibility. And when the leaders of Dubai started with their strategic plan to announce that the development of the knowledge economy should take place, they asked us, Fraunhofer, very early to support them in setting up structures to enhance the human capital, not only of Dubai, but of overall UAE. And then we supported them over the last 3 years in setting up the Dubai Institute of Technology as part of the Dubai Technopark, which is a free zone, but which allows 100% ownership, and already more than 400 businesses are active in that area. In the overall, if you would connect it to the Jebel Ali free zone, more than 4,000 businesses are active over there. But they are only manufacturing or assembling. They are not doing R&D. The technological developments are mostly taking place outside of GCC countries. And therefore we supported them in setting up a research hub of selected fields of technology to enhance the human capital of the Dubai locals and UAE locals and of the other GCC countries. So more than 100 research institutes will be set up until 2015. At first it is 1 square kilometers. Later it will become more than 5 square kilometers, and the whole technopark is 21 square kilometers. So here we are combining university education, research, and manufacturing among knowledge-intensive industries, with an overall budget of 2 billion and a return on investment of less than 10 years. And here you see it is located close to the harbor and close to the new airport. And the technologies are water, health, energy, engineering, and logistics. I'm very happy about the last bell, because this is my last slide, which gives some more information about the detailed activities which are going on. So for the human capital, the setup of the DIT University and the Dubai Institute of Sustainability. In the area of structural capital, you see all the infrastructure activities to set up an incubator, to set up an IPR system and a convention center, and finally in the relational capital to set up own investment funds for R&D, which are in detail the Dubai framework programs for research and a charity program, a private charity program called Dubai for you.